Finally, the moment a couple of you have been waiting for.
It's all like bing bong, Jack.
Coming to you from an undisclosed location in Duval and St. Johns County. The show for Jag fans by Jag fans.
You can't have a newcomer come in and steal the show.
Here are your hosts, Franklin and Michael how you say it? DeZoba. Welcome to the Jaggernaut Podcast. All right, thanks for joining us once again on another Jaggernaut Podcast. I'm Frank, that's Mike over there.
Duval!
So today, we are getting ready for the start of the season by going to talk about the AFC South. What are we? This is, since we just have Labor Day, I get a little confused. It's Tuesday. We got 2 days until the start of the season where we get to watch the Chiefs and the Lions.
Some actual football.
Real.
Some pro football.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And it's nice. I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to the season. We have expectations that we, as Jag fans, have not had in some times. I think they're real, legitimate expectations.
2017. Well, 18, I guess, was the last time we had legitimate expectations.
Yeah, let's hope it doesn't go.
Yeah,
like
we floundered.
18.
So that's not what we want.
Well, okay, so on that point, we haven't had the offseason turmoil. If you remember that offseason, the Jalen Ramsey, Brinks truck stuff, there was indications that there was some locker room stuff. Throughout the season, it unveiled itself to be worse than what the offseason looked like, but I don't think we've seen anything near that. I think this offseason has been pretty flawless in terms of its players.
Character issues?
Yeah, just like the demeanor of the coaching staff, the team, the stability, all that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I think you need a few knuckleheads. You know, you do. Every team needs a few knuckleheads. The problem is when the squeaky wheel gets too loud.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's better to get another wheel than it is to spray some WD-40 on it. Yeah.
Addition by subtraction.
I mean, and I think that's what we sort of ran into a little bit, but it was, I think 2017 or 2018 had a lot of different moving parts. We had a bad quarterback, right?
Who got paid?
No way around it. The players who were good, they may have been mouthy, but they were good, saw a franchise pay a bad player.
Right.
And then not pay them. That would piss me off too.
Yeah, and then have Coughlin, who was
coming
in as the commandant of the whole, cracking whips on people who, the whole thing broke down.
So I mean, to me, it wasn't just the players. The players didn't help, but the organization didn't help. The quarterback didn't help. The GM didn't help. The coach didn't help. It was just a catastrophic failure all the way around, and it just blew. The volcano burst in 2018.
Yeah.
So. Anyway, we're not those Jags.
No, we're not those Jags. And so we are, by most people's estimation, the team that is supposed to win the AFC South division. Some people, like Peter King and others, have us are expecting us, or at least, predicting, whatever that's worth, to be maybe lead the league in the amount of wins. I think I saw he had us at 13-4, tied with the Chiefs. A lot of other people have had us ahead of the Chiefs in the AFC, at least the AFC. I'm not sure if anyone in the NFC. Maybe you could say the 49ers, maybe they'll have a good, maybe they'll be good enough and in the NFC to possibly eclipse that record. But the point is that might have a shot at the number one overall seed of the AFC. So,
and you know what? If we get it, sweet. in this regards. It's nice that the playoffs will run through Duval. That will be nice for the city. That'll be nice for the fans. That'd be nice for the players. Since you don't have to travel, you get the week off. That's nice. But if we don't go to the dance, if we are not the last ugly chick standing, it doesn't matter.
Well,
you know?
okay.
So and then now I believe that people are on this bandwagon. The national media, they have people that are on this bandwagon. But it isn't going to matter if we don't take care of our home first. Does anyone in our house bother you? Do you think we're just going to fly through the AFC South willy-nilly and not have to worry about it?
No, I don't think any division ever works that way. Even though
Well, I don't think any. Yeah, most games don't work that way.
Right.
So people are putting it out there, and yeah, I can understand why, but I'm a little bit apprehensive with the amount of accolades that we're getting, and it's like, whoa, let's earn those accolades. Start off and say Jacksonville maybe can win the South. They have a shot to win the South, and then when we look like we're going to win the South, say, hey, they have a shot to maybe get first seed. You know what I'm saying? As we're playing, start to ramp up the praise. Don't praise us now because we haven't done anything.
Right.
So
and that's something we as Jag fans should know.
You know what it is though? But secretly, when we're reading it, we're like, yeah.
Oh, secretly? I mean, I don't.
You get happy because it's about damn time. We've waited for so long. We may end up still having to wait. But it feels like we're actually have some credibility. Not because we're good fans, not because Duval's a decent city. Because our football team finally seems to matter and care enough that when they step on the field, they're going to play.
Yeah. Yeah, no question. And I think
talk about our house.
I think the concept that you said in regards to that was if we got first seed but we didn't win, then none of it matters. Well, the reason why that's interesting is think about that perspective, because it's not wrong, right? But it's totally different than the way we were last year at this time. Last year at this time, we were like, well, if we could just be in the playoff hunt, it just talked about as a team that could win the AFC South in the talk. Not that we would win it, just like we're not destroyed. we're still in toward the end of the season. That was the discussion. Toward the end of the season, we are one of the teams that are talked about, that we aren't eliminated from winning the AFC South. And that's what's transpired in one season. Based on what we saw the last half of the season, is that now our expectation is we not only have to get into the playoffs, we not only should win the AFC South, but man, we might be able to get to the Super Bowl. We might be able to win the Super Bowl. Who knows? So I think that, just to point that out, that's a big change from one off season to the next. And it sort of explains also the trepidation on why you might be like, this is that trepidation that a team like, say, the Chiefs are dealing with. They have no problem with this sort of expectation. That is the Chiefs. So the question is that the Jags? Are the Jags now one of these teams that should be considered favorites to be in the playoffs?
So yes, to that specific question, yes. We should be looked at as a favorite to be in the playoffs. We should be looked at as a favorite to win the South, even though it's the South. It's like two turds fighting over the crap bowl sometimes. But the truth is that we're still not up with those other teams. And here's what: the Chiefs, the Bills, and the Bengals, right? If they don't win the Super Bowl, it is a lost season.
Isn't that what you just said about us, though?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, I did not. What I'm saying is that if we win the South and if we get the first seed, if we don't make it to the dance, then yes, it's a lost season. Well, good,
gotcha.
we had the first seed,
Okay.
but we didn't do anything with it.
I thought you said being the last standing after the dance, which in my mind, I'm thinking, oh, we need to win the Super Bowl. That's the last standing. So you're just talking about if we don't get to the AFC, if we don't represent the AFC after being the number one seed, then it's a loss for us. But that's not the same expectation the Chiefs have.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're slightly behind those other three teams.
The Chiefs, the Bengals, and the Bills, if they don't win the Super Bowl, if they don't get to the Super Bowl, it is a failed season.
Right.
For us, our failed season is not making the playoffs. And maybe if you want to argue or haggle, it's not winning the AFC South. So either I would want both. I want both. I think we're capable of both. But I want the playoffs more than I necessarily care about the AFC South. But if a team wins the South and it isn't us, we most likely aren't making the playoffs.
Yeah.
Because I can't see like a 15-2 team or a 15-1 team coming out of the South. I just can't do it. I can't see.
Well, it would be us. It would be us because we had that good of a year. Well, I mean, it could be the Titans because, if in other words, the Titans have a similar schedule. So I want to say, well, the schedule isn't difficult for us, so maybe we could. But the Titans have that same schedule to a certain extent. They have similar expectations. They're a little bit more down than we are right now.
Well, sweet. Let's talk about the Titans. Let's go.
Yeah,
Give me your appraisal.
Okay, so the thing about the Titans is, in my estimation, basically what they are hoping for. I'm trying to put myself in the Titan fan base mindset. What they want is a season where they're not healthy, or where they are healthy, and not what happened to them last year. Because for them, they believe that is the only reason why they didn't do what the Titans have been doing in the past couple years, which is to say represent the AFC South, be a team that's a team that's vying for the playoffs. That they are one of the tough teams in the AFC. Last year they fell off pretty hard, and we popped up. So they look at that as that we basically were beneficiaries of their misery,
demise.
Of their
yeah. So we filled the void
issues.
They left.
Exactly, and that you can't understand that perspective, right? Injuries, you don't ever want to go, oh, the teams can't do that, the players can't do that, the coaches can't do that, fans certainly can do that. They can go, well, if we wouldn't have been injured, we would have been great. And so that's rule one for them. In regards to what they did in the offseason, though, it's like, okay, who got better? Who stayed the same? Who got worse?
There is no staying the same, dude. You either get better or you get worse.
Yeah, but you don't know which way it is. And I agree with that statement. Yeah, if you're not improving, you're getting worse, basically. Mm-hmm. You just don't, you can estimate and you go, I don't know if they've improved. I can't tell if they've got better. I can't necessarily say they got worse, So I think when you're trying to figure it out before it happens, I think you can say, I'm guessing they stayed about the same, which, to your point, means they will go up or down. You just don't know which way to call it.
You know what? I mean, if we're going to say they got better, well, they got better because they got DeAndre Hopkins. That's why they got better. But they got worse because Derrick Henry's another year older. Yes, he is Derrick Henry. Right? And I'm not going to poo-poo on King Henry. The man is from the area. All right. But he plays for the enemy. But the truth is that at some point, no matter what you want to believe, that tire starts to show wear.
Right.
Is that what we saw last year? Is that what we saw the year before that? I don't know. I can't say, because if in order to say, you would have to be a crystal ball reader. I will say that Ryan Tannehill is just one of the upper echelons of a game manager. So I don't really believe that they got better. So they either stayed the same or they got worse. Now they got DeAndre Hopkins, right?
Yeah.
And what they're hoping for with this is to cause defenses to move off the line of scrimmage.
Right.
So that Derrick Henry has more running room. But
Right.
It is still run Derrick Henry into the ground. Their philosophy hasn't changed. I don't care who you are. The NFL will catch up with your philosophy. They will make adjustments.
Yeah.
So you could put D-Hop all you want to. I will double cover D-Hop. I'll take away what's many people are calling an up and coming tight end.
Yeah.
I'll single cover your next two guys. Yep. And I'll leave everybody else up on the box.
Yeah. Well, and then in fairness though, they do have Traylon Burks, and he does flash. Like last year, he flashed a little bit.
Me and you disagree there. That's the same guy that came into camp fat.
Yeah, but you know what? Remember Jamar Chase came into camp that one year, and it was like he couldn't catch anything, is what the word out of camp was, and he only went and led the league that year in receptions and touchdowns.
But the
and
difference
stuff,
is that's the difference is Traylon Burks came into camp fat and didn't do anything.
He rounded out. He got better throughout the season.
Two big differences. So
he got better throughout the season.
I'm not scared of anybody on the Titans.
No, but I'm just trying to point to you why they're not. They do have some playmakers on that team. I do think the biggest thing is Tannehill going to. Not only is Tannehill going to be good enough to get and distribute and do everything that a quarterback needs to do, because even though he was hurt, okay, forget being hurt for a minute, this is now 2 years now where we've had an issue where, going into last year, there was mental issues with Tannehill. He had some issues with the playoff loss. The concept that Tannehill being there, and they don't have to resort to Malik Willis or Will Levis, means in the Titans fans' mind, they have that stability. And yes, that is more stable, but is it as stable as they think it is? Because remember, their point is, well, if they didn't lose people, and Tannehill was one of them, they would have won. But we beat them with Tannehill the first time we played them, and they actually played better, a tighter game the second time. And I forget the guy that Dobbs. I think it was Joshua Dobbs was their quarterback. So Dobbs actually played us better than Tannehill did. Now each game's its own thing, and I don't think that means Dobbs is better than Tannehill. But the point is that Tannehill isn't the stability. Also, the other thing too, something that happened with them is that they ended up changing out their offensive coordinator. They also changed out their GM, which I don't know that affects anything right now, but their offensive coordinator come over from the Texans. And I remember this sort of stuff happening when we were back in the day. We would go get guys from teams that they weren't any better than the Jags. And I'm like, what are y'all doing? Why y'all go get somebody from teams that win, I remember thinking this a lot, and you go, well, you sell yourself on it, and you go, well, maybe this was the one guy in the organization that knew what he was doing, and you got to hype yourself up into it. And this is a guy with the Texas organization. If you look at his OC record, I mean, in regards to Hopkins, you want a little bit of a dynamic offense if you're going to be able to get defenses to respect something else other than Derrick Henry. And I don't know that the offensive coordinator they brought in is going to be able to do that. At least he doesn't have, at this point, seem to have a track record of doing it. So nothing about the Titans scares me except Henry, because we've seen Henry. But yeah, he's a year older. And their defense doesn't scare me. Now, it's a good defense. They play sound, fundamental, and their defensive line's pretty good. Harold Landry,
Jeffrey
Simmons.
Right? Yeah,
Now, they
Simmons
brought
is
over
a
Arden
beast.
Key, so that's an interesting... We'll see this as we review, that there's these interchangeable pieces within the AFC South that happens here. Arden Key going from our team to theirs. They have him apparently slated to be their defensive end, which he did do for us, defensive end, but early on he wasn't playing defensive end so much. He was doing all his work from the inside, so that'll be an interesting transition to see when he's full-time defensive end out on the other side of Harold Landry. How's that going to play out? So the other thing of note, they might have the worst offensive line in football.
I was going to say their offensive line has taken a dive, but
Yeah.
who knows? Who knows?
Well, it's
Yeah.
worth noting when you're
A running team?
we're going to stretch the field with D-Hop now. Well, you have to have time to do that. And, we're going to run the ball. Well, okay. One way to stop Derrick Henry is to stop him before he gets going. And if your offensive line sucks, well, that makes it a little bit easier to do that. So, again, just have they changed anything? Not really. Like, they got, who did they pick up? Andre Dillard to replace Taylor Lewan. Sean Murphy Bunting, on the defense, and Arden Key. I mean, there are other moves, but they weren't real movers and shakers this year. So when you look and you say what you said, you're either getting better, or you're getting worse. Well, they better hope DeAndre Hopkins is the DeAndre Hopkins of 3 years ago, because then I don't know that they got better. And this is a team that still has that stink of getting rid of A.J. Brown. And that's something D-Hop's going to have to deal with. That's something Traylon Burks has got to deal with. Because anytime a mistake gets made or whatever, that's going to... Anyway. But, yeah, so in comparison, it's a clear... If you say the Titans' arrow is pointing up, I don't think it's reasonable to say that it's really pointing up high. Barely pointing up. That's in my estimation, that's the best you could possibly say, is that they got slightly better, and if we're healthy, that's what you're saying if you're a Titans fan. We got slightly better because we got a bad offensive lineman out now, and we got this guy, and Arden Key will add pressure, and then we'll be healthy. That's what you're saying. And it may be true. We could look back at the end of the year and we could say the Titans won it again. It wouldn't be shocking to say that by any stretch. But the arrow for the Jags is pointed, at least right now, it's pointed way up.
Yeah, it is.
And we already won the division last year. Here's something else I want to say before we move on.
You say it, brother. Say it. Say it with conviction.
Oh, I'm going to say it with conviction. Go back and look. And I didn't pull it up. I wish I forgot to. The concept that they... only reason that they had the record they had and that they opened up the door for us was injuries. I'm going to challenge that slightly. Their schedule dictated that. They go, well, we had this 7-win streak in the middle of the season, and then injuries began to happen. They had 7-win streak in the middle of the season because the middle of the season was their weakest part of their schedule. They played a bunch of teams that were just middle of the road teams. Also, that's quite different from our winning streak toward the end of the season, where it was the murders row. Cowboys, Ravens, Chiefs. That
Titans.
was Yeah, and the Titans twice, which are supposed to be, and with Tannehill once, and we beat the mess out of them then. So it's not as if to go. So in other words, you can't just say that if you're a Titans fan. You should not just be dismissing this because our arrows pointed up, and any reasonable fan of football would say, no, that's a team that you should actually be worried about if you're a Titans fan. It isn't just enough to go this year no injuries. You better be bringing more to the table.
All right, and I agree. I ain't scared. Show me my opponent. Texans. Man, C.J. Stroud. Woo. People were talking him up. I saw him in the preseason, and I'm not impressed.
Well,
can he get better? Look, I mean, he's a rookie. I get it, right? I get it. But I'm not impressed. Will Anderson, he may develop into something, but he's coming from when he was beating up on 18-year-olds. You ain't beating up on 18-year-olds anymore, man. Sorry. You got grown men you're going up against. Who did that? They got Nico Collins. Does he scare you? Because it doesn't scare me.
Well,
I'm not saying they're bad.
Right.
Give me Tyson Campbell over Nico Collins every single time.
Yeah.
No doubt. Robert Woods. Give me Robert Wood. Give me who's the other corner? I'm drawing a blank at the moment. Damian Williams? Is
that
right?
Sounds right. I'm not familiar with their other corner, actually.
No, our other corner.
Our corner? Oh, Darius Williams.
Yes, Darius Williams. Over Robert Woods every single time. Right? Who do they got? They got Dalton Schultz from the Cowboys. Was it the Cowboys scheme? They seem to be scheme friendly for tight ends. Or was he that good? Probably somewhere in the center, right? They got Dameon Pierce. He is a hard-nosed runner.
Yeah, he's the guy.
But they don't have anything else. They got a solid offensive line, and they're rebuilding a defense.
I think the Texans, you're not – I don't think it's realistic if you're a Texan fan to have much hope to win the South this year. You're looking long term. You want to see Stroud develop throughout the year. And the problem that I have with, if you look at the complexion of their offseason, I don't like it. Like, they set themselves up, in my opinion, to have some pretty good trajectory and maybe get good quickly. Once they got rid of Deshaun Watson, they had these picks, and, you know, that was a good foundation for some fast acceleration. But if you look at the offseason, they had a bunch of free agent signings, and none of them really jump out at me as like when you're signing Shaquille Griffin, like, we know that guy. We're glad he's gone. Like, I'm sure he was a nice guy, but even when he was healthy, he wasn't good. Like, he didn't play good for us. And I don't think he ever played. Like, he was here 2 years.
Right.
I don't remember ever thinking.
Year was better. Unfortunately, I think the year under Urban was better than his last year. But anyway, I agree.
I don't think he didn't play but like a couple games for us last year. And it was like he had that abdomen, but when he was gone, everybody was like, good. You know, put the next guy in, because he was getting toasted every day or every game. So you know, I just don't know. Like Sheldon Rankins, Denzel Perryman. I mean, they bring in Devin Singletary to back up Pierce. And Robert Woods comes in, and he comes from the Colts, the Titans. He played for the Titans last year. What did he do for the Titans? You know, this is just he's a number 2 at best, really.
And that's I believe that they're rebuilding. I still believe they're in a rebuilding transition, and so I'm not expecting much. I expect them to give effort. Apparently, DeMeco Ryans is this great coach. Right. And the man's never coached, so I don't know.
Right. I like the signing of DeMeco Ryans, though.
But sometimes like Mike Vrabel, those ex-players know how to hit the right buttons to
Right.
get a little bit more juice out of their players.
Yeah.
So I think they're not easy wins, but I still think they're wins.
Yeah. Well,
Right. I still think that the Texans finished last in our division. And I think maybe 4 to 6 wins at most.
yeah. I think it's interesting because it kind of reminds me, D'Amico Ryans being signed. I like the signing for them, and it kind of reminds me of when the last offseason where we were considering going with Byron Leftwich, that theme where you've got this up and coming coach who used to be a player on your team, and that sort of feels good, in some way. And, D'Amico Ryans, former linebacker for them, comes from a winning system too in 49ers, so all of the arrows pointed up. It's almost similar to Jack Del Rio too, and how that worked with us, where he's an up and coming defensive coach, linebacker, just a guy you think that's a leader of men type of personality too. So that I really like that. Of all the things that they did in this offseason, that is the A+ mark for me. D'Amico Ryans and hiring him was great. But I really felt like, and again, off the heels of the Deshaun Watson, it felt like, okay, they're going to regenerate themselves. And then even the draft, though, okay, CJ Stroud, yeah, I mean, that was a good pick. Like, there's nothing wrong with that pick. You don't know if it's going to work out, but that's the move you make, basically. But then they trade away all those picks to go get a defensive end who I guess was the best defensive end in this draft, but even some people were like, talent-wise, like he just had that amazing season. Was he the best talent-wise, though? I mean, I don't know. And that sort of tainted things. And then when you look at all the free agent sign, they spent all this free agent money. I really think the GM's making a mistake here, and I think that whatever advantage they had from this fresh start, I almost worry for them that they've kind of ruined it a little bit, and it's going to take a little longer now for them to I think they're even more of a long term. I wouldn't be surprised, because it felt like to me when you go and you draft a quarterback and then you trade back up and draft a defensive end, that feels to me like a split in the building. Like you're trying to appeal to both sides. You got this defensive new coach, and the GM says, no, we have to draft Stroud. That's the move you make. And he would be right about that, I would think. But the new coach with the personality wants his guy. And so you just mortgage a bunch of the future to appease an internal struggle. That's what it felt like to me when they did that draft. And I'm like,
hey, and that's possible.
That's not a good way to start.
And if that is, that sets them back another year. And I'm fine with that. Congratulations, Houston.
And that pretty much sums those guys up. There's not too much else to talk about, I don't think.
The Colts.
Week 1 opponent, the Colts.
Anthony Richardson. They have named him the starter. Is there any doubt? No. Jonathan Taylor will not be playing. Perhaps the best player that possibly could have been on the Colts field or on the same field in a Colts uniform will not be suiting up. Right? What do you think, man? How did the Colts do this offseason? They get better? They get worse?
They got better. Now, what they're running into is a lot of so I think their GM did a good job, and I think their owner is screwing them. It's hard to say on the outside. I mean, I don't know. Do you take Jonathan Taylor's side or do you take Jim Irsay's side on that? Because it's one thing to say, and you understand what's going on in the league with the running back position. We've talked about it on this show. But I think most people think the way Irsay handled it was not professional, not the best way to do it. And it's left the team was already struggling. And I think that this cloud now sits there, and I don't think that helps the situation at all. You have some hope here. I mean, Anthony Richardson, for people can have problems with his accuracy and stuff like that, but right now you're not worried about that. You're wanting hope. This is their Josh Allen. You're just hoping it's not Trey Lance, but you don't know. It could be Josh Allen. Like, he could be the big weapon guy with the arm and the running and everything. And you have that possibility in front of you, and now you're sullying it with this whole Jonathan Taylor experience. And I don't know what it would have taken to get him. And I don't know of his injury. That's something that's worth considering too. He's injured. I mean, he's on the PUP. I mean, unless we're going to say the Colts are lying about that. I mean, they're calling him injured when he's really not. I mean, I don't know. I think he would say something.
Apparently, he had surgery on an ankle.
Yeah.
After coming out and saying he didn't have a back injury. Something's there, man, and it stinks.
Yeah.
And you know what makes me smile? All the other Colt players are watching this too.
Yeah.
And they're going to say, this is how the owner treats us. Fine, pay me my money. I'm going to do my minimum, and then when my time's up, I'm gone.
Yeah. Here's a note. So Anthony Richards starting, and he's starting over Gardner Minshew, who they brought in from the Eagles. Guess who else has been brought in and is on their team? A friend of the show.
We have friends?
Well, his name makes an appearance.
Oh, man. It's not Brian, is it?
Taven Bryan.
Taven Bryan.
Taven Bryan is a Colt. Hey, what's the odds that Taven Bryan sacks Trevor Lawrence this year?
You know what? That dude came to play once every 3 years, and it was always against the Bills. After that, he never showed up anymore.
Yeah.
Maybe he wants to. I mean, because now, Grant, he didn't do shit in Cleveland either.
No.
But then again, Cleveland's a bit of a dumpster fire.
Yep.
So it's like, all right, well, outside of being a marginal defense rotational guy, that's the best I can say. Does it bother me? Hell no, it doesn't bother me.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting too because they had Unique Ngakoue on their team last year. So he's now gone, and they brought in some guy named Samson Ebukam from the 49ers. Kind of their Arden Key, I guess. Yeah. So, but I think they signed him to a bigger deal than whereas we did a 1-year deal with, if I'm not mistaken, Ebukam, they signed him to a multi-year deal. What's interesting about the Colts, and why I think I like what they did in the offseason, at least what the GM did, is they had like 12 picks. So they almost had as many picks as we did in the draft. And what's for a team like that is at the bottom of their division and are looking at the future. They haven't replaced Luck yet. So first thing they do is they try to do that with the first pick, and then they just get all these, a boatload of guys to bring into camp. I like that strategy. I didn't know that it made as much sense for us. I think we all questioned that it maybe the Jaguars, it would have been better to get more quality players, better chance at the roll of the dice, and it would be more dice to roll. However, it looks like we actually did get a good crop of guys this offseason or this draft. But it's interesting because the Texans brought in a bunch of free agents, like 14. They signed 14 free agents. The Colts did 12 draft picks, and we did 13 draft picks. So I'd much rather be on a team that's bringing in draft picks and paying them almost nothing, relatively speaking, and seeing what you got as opposed to the Texans. Another reason why, if you compare, not liking what the Texans did this offseason, whereas the Colts, I mean, they get their what's the odds that their offensive line gets back to form.
It's not going to.
No.
Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, I think Ryan Kelly, I think it's Ryan Kelly. I still think he's okay. I think he's solid. Everybody else on that line took a huge step back. So can they get back to form? I mean, they can get back to decent, but that year for like Jonathan Taylor's like rookie year, where he like killed everybody in the league.
Yeah.
I don't think that's happening. I don't see that happening anyway. And their defensive line doesn't scare me. They'll get their linebacker back, but he's been gone, what?
Feels like
16
forever.
months? Yeah, it's like a year and a half.
He better change his name back.
Yeah, it's like a year and a half. Now, he's probably still good. So they'll have him back. I don't know who's in their secondary. Does anybody scare you in their secondary?
No,
And
not really.
yet again, it's another rookie quarterback. So, I mean, while he can develop into I'm glad you used Josh Allen. While he can develop into a Josh Allen, Anthony Richardson has only played, I think it was like 7 college games. 7. The dude's a hell of an athlete.
That
really
sounds
is.
like Trey Lance. I hate to say it, but that was
He really
his
is,
deal too.
But he is an unpolished thrower of the football. And I understand his running, but teams are going to scheme him to stay in the pocket. They'll stop their rush just to make him throw. Because guess what? He'll give you 3 or 4 a game where he's throwing it to the wrong team, or it's a bad throw, or something's wrong. That you can't have. And as long as they have him and until he gets better, it's almost like it's as I guess it normally is. Well, it's not normally us, but it's us in Tennessee fighting for the division crown because the other twos don't have NFL caliber starting QBs at the moment. In 2 years, that could be completely different. And it probably will be where it's maybe us 3, and then the Titans are down here because they don't have a QB.
Yeah.
Because of the Malik Willis stuff, that failed. That dude's not an NFL caliber.
He's
QB.
beating Will Levis though. I don't know if that means. I don't know what that means, but yeah, and I think you're exactly right. It's a 2-team race for the AFC South because the Colts and the Texans are waiting on their QBs to develop, hopefully.
Yep.
So while that happens, it's whether or not the Titans have patched up their ship enough to give us a run for our money. So this is the reason why people are choosing the Jags, majoritively speaking, to win the South. I mean, if you just think about it in those terms, it's Trevor Lawrence versus Ryan Tannehill. Who you got? You know? Even if you look at the team's roster, do the Titans have a better roster than us? Quarterbacks aside.
No.
Now, I'm not saying we outclassed their roster.
They do have. They've
got a good roster.
They probably have 3 positions that are better than us.
Yeah.
That's like 3.
But think about this, too. We're waiting on our draft picks to also emerge. Trayvon Walker, Devin Lloyd. Yep. What if all of a sudden those guys, and this bears deserving of mention, the defense last year, toward the end of the year, was a big reason why we started winning those games. It wasn't just Trevor Lawrence. What if the defense, that while they're hoping to patch, the Titan vessel with mayonnaise and whatever else they've accrued to try to get across the finish line, what if our defensive personnel that we're waiting on, our jars on the shelf, well, they're not on the shelf, but they're playing, what if they emerge as players that we thought they were going to be? That's not unreasonable. And then if that happens, you're not your roster now is worse than ours comparatively, no question. And if that's the case, and we have the better quarterback, I mean you got to play the game. You got to play the game. There's no question about that. So we'll see what happens, but that's where we are, and all you can do is take an accurate depiction of what it looks like on paper. And what it looks like on paper is that we should win this division, but we have to go win it. We can't. We can say this as fans. The players better not have that in their mind. They better be like, week 1, beat the Colts. That's it.
I agree. Ladies and gentlemen, you heard it here. 4th, 5th. Jacksonville Jaguars are going to win. Woo! The AFC South. Because we're better on paper. That's right.
Hey, we also have good chemistry right now, too.
I believe so. I think the team as a whole at this moment doesn't have – they have players that want to play, but they don't have too many divas. Or if we do have divas, they're sort of keeping it low-key enough that it's not infecting – it doesn't seem like it's infecting the locker room.
Yeah.
So,
well, I think also one thing I would add, just because you said it paper and it reminded me, no, there's something intangible too going on. So last year, this was a team that came from behind a lot. That Chargers game being the the microcosm of our season, really. I mean, we talked about that during the game. I mean, once I calmed down from all the interceptions, I was like, you know what? Who knows? We've done this before, and as a fan, I felt that way. And you don't even have it in your control. The players felt that way too, and guess what? They did it. And that mindset affects things. They won't be out of a game in their mind. Like, they literally will never be out of a game ever in their mind, at least for some period of time. There's nobody that's going to beat them mentally anymore. So that is a component that's pretty powerful, I think, because we see this as fans. Like, you can kind of see it manifest itself, momentum and this sort of thing. That will affect momentum, and that's an intangible going into this season that I think it's hard to quantify, but it quantifies one positive direction. So it's not even that we're better on paper, it's that we have that intangible as well.
I agree, sir.
All right, so we'll have to say, I guess, what we always do, like and subscribe and all that jazz. I see a bunch of podcasts out there. We're better than a bunch of them podcasts out there. Y'all know it. Y'all need to start.
You get
I
mad?
say that, but
hey,
I don't do it. I don't push it either, you know.
We have, what, 7 to 9 followers? We love you all. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah,
it
there's
means
no question
to us.
Yeah, no, we appreciate the comments too and communication. So, well, we'll see you after week 1. Till next time.